Well, hi, everyone. Welcome to Dementia Chats. I'm Lori La Bey, and I facilitate the conversation with the true experts on dementia, those living with the disease. Today, we've chosen a topic to talk about how do you prepare for adapting to change as the disease progresses. And I think you're going to find it pretty fascinating. We're going to talk about all different types of changes as the disease progresses, from needs to possibly home care, technology, making a change in housing that might be an interim, all the way to thinking about, am I going to have to go to memory care at one point? And how do we make these transitions the easiest and best suited to the person with dementia, so that they're comfortable, so that they can have quality of life? So before we start, we're going to have everybody introduce themselves. As I said, I'm Lori La Bey. I'm the founder of Alzheimer Speaks. My mom had dementia for 30 years, and she was my biggest teacher and expert in this area. Pauline, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Pauline Gordon, and I'm living with vascular dementia. And it's been, I don't know, I'm losing track, 7 years, something like that. Um, my dad had Alzheimer's, and I am in the process of moving. So I'm excited to be here today. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Marie, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yes. Hello. My name is Elmarie Jansen van Rensburg. I'm from South Africa. I have vascular dementia with cognitive impairment, and I love being here, and hope whatever we discuss will be able to help you. And that's it.
Okay, thank you. Karen, who we call Creaky, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Karen, called Tricky, and I was diagnosed in, I think, like Pauline said, I'm confused, 2014 with initially Alzheimer's, and it's changed a couple of times. So I'm basically living with dementia symptoms. From Corpus Christi, Texas, member of Dementia Mentors, DAA, DAI, and just really grateful to be living life. Thanks.
Wonderful, thank you. Craig, you want to unmute yourself and introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Craig Henke. I was diagnosed with Lewy body dementia in 2013. I have many of the symptoms still, but my doctor just last month changed my diagnosis to mild cognitive impairment with Lewy body tendencies. I think what the word is that I use, but I'm not in agreement with that, because I'm pretty sure I still have blown out Lewy body dementia, because I have all the symptoms and still suffering with all the symptoms. So I may get a second opinion from another doctor. And I'm involved in DAA and Dementia Mentors very heavily.
Great, thank you. True?
Full legal name, Truthful Loving Kindness. My current diagnosis is mild cognitive impairment because it's just moving so slow, but I have vascular and Lewy body symptoms, and I blog involved with Dementia Mentors and some other stuff.
Wonderful, thank you. And Kate?
Hi there, my name is Kate. I'm originally from Malaysia, and I now live in Illinois. I was diagnosed in 2014 with Alzheimer's, and as we know, it's very difficult to diagnose dementia. So in 2017, my neuropsychologist thought that there were some changes, or it didn't seem that I had Alzheimer's. So I was diagnosed with BVFTD, which is behavior variant frontotemporal dementia. And I lost my executive skills. But other than that, I can do a lot of things. I'm involved with several support groups online. Thank you.
Great, wonderful. True, you had brought up this topic, so I'm going to let you go ahead and kick it off about adapting to change as you progress and kind of planning ahead for smooth transitions.
Okay, well, the main thing I have already done is I have a page of movies and why I like each specific movie, what it has to do with my inner workings or family history, how it fits into the picture of why that movie is special to me, with the listing of the movies and why, listing of music and why, and maybe artists. I know I've got artists in there, but I don't remember what else. But those were the main things that I've done so far as preparing for either an extra care partner coming in the house. Oh, and we built the house as a double layer so that the upstairs would be available for when more is necessary than what my husband can provide. But never mind, the end.
Okay. What about one of the things you had mentioned offline was about things that you wanted to bring with you if you had to move out of the house?
Yeah. I've thought about because I've been asked these questions in the process of helping other people. The things that are the furniture type things that are most important to me really are unrealistic to take to a facility. Like the biggest thing I would want to take is the very, very heavy wood stove that was my great-great-grandmother's, and then was used by all the generations down until when we were living in the barn and we had no water or heat or anything like that. That wood cook stove was our food and our heat, and that meant home. So I have taken that wood cook stove with me everywhere. And that is what would most mean that I am home at a facility, but it's way too heavy. So I haven't been able to really come up with what pieces of furniture would be most important to me, but I have been thinking about it. And I think that's the first step.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I think it's good, like for sure you wouldn't be able to hook it up, because it probably wouldn't be going in a facility. They don't even like you having stoves in memory care that are hooked up. What about a picture or something if it's too heavy to physically move? Maybe having, some kind of photo done that would ring a bell.
Actually, I have done that. I've got photos. I've drawn it myself. And also, but bringing that up, the photos of the paintings that my kids have done would be important things for me to have with me. You're right.
Okay.
Very important things.
Wonderful. Ricky, how about you? What are some of your thoughts?
About things bringing in, or just general assisted living kind of?
I think just general in terms of, wherever you're at and what you're thinking about for future.
Tell you what, I am not very cool about all of this. I can't imagine anybody is, but I have always lived alone, independent. I still drive. And in reality, I know these things, will continue to progress. I got that up here. And I can't imagine me driving unsafe. Got that. But I've just made an agreement with my 88-year-old neighbor who's having problems I'm riding with her, and I said, could you please ride with me, even though I'm not anywhere, but it is important. And the friend that passed away used to do that with me. So it's very important for me to have accountability, even though I can't imagine it. So the same thing with, oh my gosh, somebody coming in to help me like dress. Um, I just, these are things that I'm getting used to hearing through dementia mentors and other education that I'm doing and going to assisted livings before the COVID. I know that's all doable. I've helped, be a care partner with my dad. It's all doable. I just have a little ego, problem. So that's going to be very difficult for me. Allowing somebody to come in and you don't need to do that because I can do it, kind of thing. The other thing, if I were to go into an assisted living, is my piano. That is, I've gotten back into it. I don't imagine they're going to allow me to take a piano. And I know most places have pianos there. I'm wanting to buy a little 88 key, a little full blown 88 key keyboard. Really, I don't have material things. I'm not interested in stuff other than what True had mentioned, the music and the pictures and the pianos, really. And then an outdoor, I'm an outdoor girl. So those are the things. But again, I need that folder when I go into these places, when I'm no longer able to say, this is what I really want, and don't you understand, to look at this. And I know Pauline, I believe it was with y'all that we had gone through a whole course on what to ask and what to look for and all of that stuff. So these are things I, quote, need to do that I, quote, haven't done. And I need to do them now.
Okay, great. Go ahead, True. You had a comment?
Another thing that I've been thinking of that I haven't really got any answers for yet is I am extremely, what's the word? Being with people costs me energy. Being alone is when I get my energy. So when I need to have another person in the house or be at a facility where I'm surrounded by people all the time, what strategies can I use to still have my alone time? How can I have my alone time if somebody is here 24/7? So I'm looking for ideas on that.
I think that's a great point. And I think that is one in a lot of communities that's overlooked, that not everybody likes being in a group or wants to be in a group, and they are, pleasantly comfortable being alone. And there's this discomfort, I think, in some communities because they have to do their care plans. And, in order for them to meet state requirements, they have to tick off, oh, she's participating. Well, that needs to be loud and clear that you're more of an introvert in some fashions. And if anyone knows True and how much she's an advocate, you'd never think she's an introvert. But it is that quiet time and that quiet space, and it's how you do what you do and where you do what you do. And I think many times that is overlooked. So I think that's a wonderful, wonderful point to make. If it's with in-home care, if it's with, moving into some form of community living. Those are things people need to understand, and not just understand, but they need to respect. And they need to help incorporate that. Creaky?
Yeah, along those lines, and again, it all for myself, it all has to do with having something written. And it would seem that to avoid the state inspections from the assisted livings, they see somebody sitting in a corner in their room, you're ignoring her, but you look at her file and it says patient requests, to be uninvited, to have that profile for each person, because you're going to have different shifts. You're going to have different people even when they come to your house. So you don't have to sit there for me and try to remember, well, did I tell you that? But just have that little, summary.
Oops. And I think for, for state regulations and stuff, then they need to know, you know, that the resident is comfortable and content being alone, you know, and they can always ask, but if somebody doesn't want to, that's okay. And that's the game that's played, but it's honored in terms of what the person wants in their life. Because sometimes, and I've seen that in communities when I visited, where someone's really almost being forced to participate, and then they have a behavior. Well, then the staff get mad. Well, now they got a behavior. Well, why do they have the behavior? Because, you know, you're making them do something that they're not comfortable doing. And so it's not a black and white thing. I mean, we really do have to be more person-centered, relationship-based, honoring true needs and wants of people, as long as it's not hurting anybody else. You know, True, you had another comment?
Yeah, I think it would be awfully nice if care providers were taught that each person, and in fact, it's reflected in this, not in the size of the brain, but how different parts of the brain get bigger and different parts of the brain get smaller. And people with these characteristics don't, in fact, work poorly with more stimulation. The stimulation required is very little for these people. And you get them too much stimulation, you're going to have anxiety. Instead of seeing that as excitement and positive, their body sees it as a negative. And being around people is wonderful. It's very necessary and so important to me. And maybe that's part of why it costs me so much energy, is because it is so very crucial. And paying attention to Creaky's facial expression, body language, and Kate's, what's going on there? What's she really meaning? That intensity is very draining. And care providers need to be aware that not everybody's the same. And that if they enforce these things, there will be the consequence, like you were just saying. And it would be awfully nice if there was some training on that.
Well, and a good point, you know, you were just talking about nonverbals, and sometimes I think staff don't pick up on that because they're so task oriented. It's just a checklist. And no, you have to take a shower tonight at 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock or 4 o'clock, or, you know, you have to eat now. You have to, you know, everything is structured, and it's not, a lot of times I think staff also don't feel like they have the permission or the authority to make changes or adjustments because this is their job description. And so it really has to come down from a top down and bottom up to kind of meet in the middle, to really meet the needs and really be specific and feel comfortable being able to justify why it's not done. You know, it's because it's the person's preference. It's because this is what gives them comfort and joy. To me, that's a pretty simple thing to state, but I don't think we've trained staff or given them permission to say that all the times or to document that. And that's a philosophy thing within companies and within structures. Craig, how about you? What are your thoughts in terms of preparing? I know you've made one move from your home and then move closer to family. How are you preparing, and what do you think is important?
I have a living will set up that has everything in it that what I want when I'm in my last stages, and it's everything from being on my left side, because I prefer being on my left side, to having jazz trumpet music played in the room, having my dog come in and spend time with me while I'm there too. So everything's pretty much laid out, so there's no question as to what I want. You just have to follow the plan. But moving wasn't too bad back then because that was 2 years ago. But now I think it would be a big problem. my wife decided to, well, I've been sleeping really weird now, so I sleep during the morning, almost all morning. And while I was sleeping, my wife rearranged the living room completely. And that felt me, it's just little things like that. It tells me for a loop, and I just don't handle it well. And then 2 days later, she moved all the kitchen cupboards, everything that was in it. She moved to different places, and I was lost. And I got mad about it, and I wasn't trying to be mad at her, but it's just frustrating because I'm used to being in my own place with my own stuff that I know is there. I know where it is, at least for now. But yeah, getting changes like that can be very confusing. Next weekend, or this coming weekend, I'm supposed to go up to an ice fishing tournament. And I love to go, I love to fish, but being out of my house is just, I have trouble falling asleep. When I do sleep, I sleep too much. So any little change can be very debilitating.
I think that was a really good point you brought up about routines and placement of things, because I think a lot of times care partners, if they're family or professionals, don't understand the importance and how much people with dementia rely on routine and standard placement. And it might seem like a real simple, easy thing, but it's like, it's just a really, really difficult thing when things get moved around. And yeah, it might look nicer and it might save you a couple steps in the kitchen, but in my mind, you've added 12 miles for me to figure out where the spoons are or where the glasses are now, and how much that energy takes away from you being able to be present or comfortable or even feel safe. That it's kind of what I've heard you guys explain to me, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but it's almost like a hamster on a wheel when you're trying to keep up and you're trying to figure out what's what, and you're expending this energy, but you're just on the wheel and you don't feel like you're making any progress in terms of finding what it is you're looking for, and frustration just kind of mounts and builds, and it's exhausting. Stuff like that is emotionally exhausting. And I think the rest of us need to understand and appreciate that this isn't just a normal change that we feel, or we see that it's moved. Oh, I'll just open up this cabinet or that cabinet. But a lot of people will say, I don't know if I already opened up that cabinet, and so I'm opening it up again. Or true, I remember one time you were talking about taking a shower and you have your shampoo, your conditioner, your body wash, everything's in order and it's on one side, and then after you use it, you put it on another side. But if you forget to do that, you start all over because you don't know where you're at. And it's those things that we take for granted, that I think we really have to discuss with people and let them know their importance. I loved when you talked about your pet, because pets are so important to those that have them, and the trumpet music, that's really a theme, coming through here. Now, you also mentioned before we started recording about the importance of technology or loss of ability to use technology. Do you want to speak on that, Craig?
Yes. Before that, though, I've always had OCD, and with the dementia, it seems like it's multiplied a lot. So I go through a checklist at night before I go to bed, and some of it involves what stuff is in each cabinet. So now I can't kick the OCD in, because where stuff is supposed to be is no longer there. So the OCD gets even worse. So I'll go through stuff. I have to count things 8 times. So it's always 8 times. But if they move stuff around, it just makes everything just that much more complex. And technology, I'm at the point now where I think I'm losing touch with technology. I'll be on my phone, for instance, trying to type in letters and send a chat or something, or a message, or trying to get something on a remote control for the TV, and it's not working, and I get very upset because I'm I'm thinking it's the TV remote, it's my phone that's screwed up. My wife will look at me, she goes, no, it's you. I watched what you did. You did it wrong. And that's hard to hear. Because I've always been fairly good with technology. My wife bought us a huge TV, and we gave our other one to her sister. And I was there over 3 hours, just over 3 hours, trying to get her TV to work, because things just weren't making sense. Where my TV that we just got, it came through the step-by-step thing of how to hook this up, how to hook that up, and it was a lot better, because I didn't have to. Because if I can read something on a manual, for instance, I might as well throw it away, because I can read it and a second later it's gone. So I wish that they're getting better than they were. I think they're working on stuff, but I wish the dementia community, as far as health goes, would take that into mind to build something into these manuals or other things that are dementia friendly. Because my wife bought the new TV with my stimulus money. I went and bought him my new stereo system that I've wanted for 20 years now, because I always had a good one. But between the instructions for that and the instructions for the TV, that was lost. And it affects you mentally and physically. I was just exhausted.
Yeah. Well, and manuals aren't always really helpful. Sometimes they're written by people in different countries, and so language doesn't always make sense, or steps are missed and things. But it would be nice, even if they had a step-by-step, even if they had like a checkbox. So then if you did one, you could check that off. Then at least you'd know where you are, instead of going back to the page and starting from the beginning again, that a lot of times people say, because they're not sure where they were in the process. Something like that wouldn't take up a lot of room. Even having bigger print probably wouldn't kill them, though it would take up a little bit more space, because that, is straining on the eyes, all of those things. Now, you also have set up a portal with your mom to be able to participate in church and family gatherings and things like that. Why don't you talk about the importance of that and what that has meant to both your mom and your family?
I don't know if everybody knows what a portal is, but it's basically a computer screen like we're in front of now, but it's designated just for chatting, and it goes through Messenger. It uses Messenger. What it's called Portal on Facebook, I guess is what it is. And my mom moved 45 miles away from her church. She hadn't been there in like over 2 years, and then with this last year with the virus, it shut everything down. So I was trying to come up with something that I could do to help her out. And it started with I talked to the assistant minister there, and I asked him if he could send her the bulletin each week, so she kind of had a feel of what was going on and still was part of the church. And he did that. And then I was thinking, if I can watch her church on my computer by live streaming it, I should be able to put the computer in front of the portal screen, and she'd be able to watch her church. And it worked. It works really, really great. And she's just ecstatic about it, because she was very involved in her church. She was always involved with her choir. So that's working really good, even to the point where the first 2 times I had it on, she was kind of insecure about saying the prayers or singing the hymns. So I started doing it with her, and then she fell into it more and more. And now we both sing, and we both do the prayers, and they send her a communion wafer in the mail, and then they bless it. And so it's already blessed, so she can have communion at home, which is also big, because she hadn't had that in a long time. But Christmas Eve is a big deal in my family, where 6 families get together, and it's usually at my sister's house, and it's always a really, really good time and good to see people. And that couldn't happen this year, so we had my mom here at my house, and I have a bigger screen now, so she was able to look at Portal and see all the families that were all there all from Arizona to Western Wisconsin. And she was just beside herself. She started crying when she saw everybody. But so that's one thing where technology is actually helping me out. But it took a while to come up with the thought process and how it all works.
Well, that's amazing. And I think that people have to, when they're doing their planning, work into that. I know some families are even talking about, and this is a big thing, but if somebody moves into a memory care, or if they're alone, even into an assisted living, some family members want cameras in their unit to be able to see. I think that's a discussion that needs to be had, with the person who's there. And are they comfortable with that? And how are those cameras going to be used? And where are they going to be placed? And stuff. Because some individuals aren't comfortable with that. And yet families want to make sure that somebody's safe and that they can peek in. Or, sometimes it's not even about safety. It's about the care partner just being able to see you and connect even when you can't talk. I mean, I have one person in my memory cafe, John, who has an iPad set up, and he can pop in there anytime. And for him, it's just a comfort thing. And so how is that going to be used? Why is that going to be used? And, would you be willing to allow family to do that, to give them comfort? Because I think that's something that we don't talk about. We kind of talk about the spying piece and the lack of privacy, and but why is that being done? I think that's another important piece to be discussed, with people on that. I'm going to go ahead and move on to Elle Marie. Do you want to share with us what are some of your thoughts for adapting as the disease progresses?
I'm I'm an extrovert, so I need people around me. And this COVID thingy that came up is a terrible change for me because I couldn't see people. The only thing I had was my Zoom meetings, but it's different to having another body with you. My family, my husband, and my children is here, and they do count, but other people's do count for me. But to cope with these changes, I started my art, and from jewelry making to drawing to this and that, and changes, almost like Greg says. A friend of mine made a whole thing for me next to my chair in the living room. She made a nice thing. It's like drawers that you can pick up and put stuff in and change it from old beer bottle boxes, and which she covered and made nice. And all my stuff is there. And if I miss one thing, just one bead, if it fell off or somebody decided to clean up or put it away somewhere, I really, really, really get an anxiety attack. And I start searching. I will search in the middle of the night. And I will not stop until I get what I'm looking for. And but with changes, I feel lately that things are more changing with me, and I think it's with trauma. My brother died lately of COVID, and the whole lockdown thing changes, and I have more problems of keeping my thoughts together. It's like I have a rope on the one hand and rope on the other one, and I touch them together and I get this idea, but I can't hold them together for long enough to remember what the idea was or what I was supposed to say or think or remember. So change is I'm a person that likes routine. I want routine. I don't want to do other stuff. I'm not interested in doing other stuff. If I do this like that, I want to do this like that. Otherwise, I just simply can't function. I cannot function if I don't have my routine. If I do, well, I can't do recipes anymore. But when I used to do baking, I would start with what should first be put on the stove, then prepare what then. So everything were in stages. So that is just trouble for me, and changes that is really difficult for me.
Have you thought if the disease progresses of having home care or maybe having to live somewhere else at all, Elmarie?
I've been thinking about it, but yeah, I'm not gonna go start crying. I can't forever cry. I've been thinking about it, but I don't know. Is it the right time now? Do I wait till I really can't anymore understand or do? Or do I make plans now? I really don't understand. It is my understanding is becoming less and less.
Yeah, I can tell you with, my mom lived with dementia for 30 years, and she was in her mid stages when my dad ended up having to move into a nursing home. And when I say mid stages, she really couldn't, she needed help picking out her clothes and didn't necessarily know what to wear for the weather. She couldn't cook or use the phone, but she socially, oh my God, you would never know, because she could talk up a storm and engage people and things. And when my dad ended up in the nursing home, because he had brain cancer and fell down 2 flights of steps and was never going to be able to live independently, the plan was for her to live with us. And, we got along great. But about 2-3 weeks in, she woke up clear as a bell one morning and said she wanted to move into the nursing home. And I'm telling this story because it was something that I didn't imagine. I was offended that she wanted to move out of my house. Wasn't I doing a good enough job? Made it all about me, of course, personally, when she said it. And then I asked her, well, why? Nobody wants to move into a nursing home. And she said, again, normally would not be able to recall this clear as a bell. We've been together 49 and a half years, and I'm not leaving him now. Oh, still melts my heart. So I said I would make that happen. Now, the nursing home said, well, we'll get rid of your dad's roommate and they'll live together. And I said, no. And they're like, well, what do you mean, no? And I said, she doesn't need to watch him die. She doesn't understand the process. We're going to lose them both because they're 2 peas in a pod. And I said, I want her on the highest functioning floor. I want her to have one meal and one activity every day on that floor, so she gets acclimated to people in some routine. And the rest of the time, I will be with her and I will take her up to the other floor where my dad was. About 2 months later, my dad passed. My mom was okay with that. I mean, she, even at the funeral and stuff, people are like, oh my gosh, she's doing so well. Well, she was playing her normal role of taking care of everyone else. But yet she was disassociated that the man in the casket was her husband of almost 50 years. But she went on to live in the nursing home for 14 years. And she went on to live that long because she was connected, because she did move in, I believe, early enough where she made relationships. She understood the routines, things formulated around her. And then the last 4 years, she was really more in very end stages. In the last 3, she was, on hospice and then popped off because she improved with the extra services. And then, and then at the very end. So that's just a thought of, depending on how you want to live in your comfort level. You know, for her, it opened my eyes to moving earlier to get that sense of comfort, get that sense of routine, where she was still verbal. She still might not have been able to tell people directly what was going on, but if staff are good, I think between them and family could read between the lines of what the needs were and communicate and establish that, you know, for them. It's not going to work for everybody. It's not everybody's dream. And I just see True had her hand up, so I'm going to let her pop in and then we'll come back to you, Elmer.
I wanted to say, Elmarie, you have said something about your wishes. It thought about them enough to say, no, anything else, I need these craft supplies to go in the order and form that they are in. They are in my stacked boxes, and that is the way they'd better stay. No matter who comes or where I go, my craft supplies are going to stay just like this. Good for you.
Yes. I said I'm very extrovert, but I found I have a friend or two that we visited, but I actually start finding it difficult to really talk to people. Dementia Mentor started a sunshine or joke page. I can't make a joke. I used to be able to make jokes for 24 hours at long without repeating one, because I just don't get it. My brothers tried to explain it to me, and then eventually I just say, ha, that's so funny. Yeah, but it changes. How it's very difficult. And how do I tell somebody that my daughter told me the other day, but it's irritating because I keep on asking the same thing over and over. And how do not just I do the changes? How does my family do the changes?
Yep. Good.
All of us coping.
Yeah, and I think having those conversations aren't always easy, but I think they make things easier in the long run, just laying them out there. Because even if you're worried about that, but you're not discussing it with them, they don't know you're worried. They're worried about their own little things, and you don't always know that, you know, what they're worried about. One of the, I think, powerful sessions we did that was probably under recognized was when we did one about you guys talking about you were worried about your care partners and how they were doing. And I think people don't think that those thoughts go through your head, that you're picking those things up, but they weigh on you as well. And so if you can clear the air on those things, have those conversations, as hard as they are, I believe it frees up some of your energy, because, you know, when we worry, that stress, it sucks it from us, and, you know, can make a big difference there. So thank you for sharing. Kate, I'm going to go to you. Oops, I'm going to go to Craig first because he's got a comment and I know he has to pop off here.
I forgot to mention something that I've never liked change, and it gets worse with the dementia, because with the dementia kind of forces change because it just does it by itself. And I would have this OCD thing that I was talking about where I'd have to go through a checklist with the stove knobs, the door locks, the patio doors had to be checked before I went to bed. But I'd do over it and go back and keep going back in a circle. And then I go to bed and I'd be in bed an hour and a half and I wake up to, oh, did I check that? I was like, so my doctor actually mentioned something very simple, but it worked great. I have a little pocket calendar and I have a checklist in there of all the things that I checked. I have that with me. As I go and do it, I check it off. And I get it all checked off and I keep that in bed next to me. So if I wake up, I can look and think, oh, you checked it, go back to sleep. It works. It works really well for something that was this pretty simple simple of an idea.
Yep. That's great. Thank you for sharing that. Kate, do you want to talk about how change has affected you and what your thoughts are on progression?
Sure. I've just moved from a big house to a smaller house because I cannot manage this big house for one reason. I don't have even to clean it. I can get a helper. The thing is, I'm overwhelmed by so many things. And that's the reason why I think many people choose assisted living, because they feel better. They feel that they can control their environment, and they don't have to. Well, I'll bring all of you. Let's say I don't want the one with the cook stove. I'll take the minimalist. I don't want the OCD guy. I'll take him on for the portal. And I don't know what Pauline wanted. The craft lady is so much like me. If you move something, oh my goodness, I'll go nuts. Okay. We all are so different, isn't it? So I have this thing about, okay, I want home care. Home care to me is like you have your own refrigerator, and you're in your own space, and you can see your grandchildren. You still can have your family. You can cook what you want. Now, I don't like anybody, my caregiver, to come in and make me sandwiches. That's the first thing they ask me. Can you do little meals, or can you make your sandwiches? You want your helper to make sandwiches? I said, no, thank you. I am just weird about people coming into my house and making my meals. So I think for now I can manage, because I can manage it, but then what if I can't? So because I know that assisted living, if you get the right assisted living, things are clean and things are, in order. And I am also I'm a stickler for rules and, a little OCD about things like that. Like if you change the schedule, I'm thrown, because I see people in assisted living, like they get sometimes very angry if they've got a hair appointment and you got it on the wrong day. Why? Because they look forward to that hair appointment, because they don't have much to look forward to other than meal times. So I am very minimal, and that's one of the reasons too I downsize. I'm very minimal. If there's a way that I can buy a bed that you can, is it Floyd or Lloyd or something, that you can just shut it onto the wall, I would. But of course, assisted living will not let me, mess with that to the wall. So I can take a bed, and I can't remember. I can't remember if you can. I think we can bring our dinner plates and that, because I'm very I like dinner plates that are cheerful, things like that. But I wouldn't take much, like four dinner plates, or because not so many people come and see me, maybe. And if they do, then we can get plates from the dining room, because I don't like foam cups and stuff like that. So I would, if the assisted living would let me, have the same things that I have here, but this is attached to the wall. It is all my craft stuff around me. It's built around me. And of course, there's more wall space than floor space. So I have to think of getting a mirror that's on the wall. I cannot take a whole dresser. Yes, people do take dressers from home, and chairs and stuff like that, and it can fit if you want. Got to measure it. But because I'm very minimal, I think that I would have a love seat or two, and a small maybe coffee table, or end tables, and a couple lamps. I'm very and there's always a piano, and Cricky can play "You Are My Sunshine" 100 times. And yeah, there's always a piano, and I love music. And of course, I'll have Bluetooth, everything, you know. And yeah, I'm very simple. Just don't touch my mess, you know. It's just like, even if it's my mess, it's my mess. Okay. They say, but it's a mess. No, it's my mess. I know where everything is in that mess. So don't touch it, kind of person. Yeah. So when the time comes, we never know what happens. Maybe we need to be in assisted living and you can't stay home. And if that is the case, then I'll go. You know, if but you know, for now I'm going to stay home. But there are times even I'm thinking of assisted living right now because of mobility. And of course, not everything is related to dementia. And there can be other things that's from your health, like you have, you know, different health issues, and you need the care in assisted living or skilled nursing. Yeah.
You know, one of the things I like that you mentioned was about my mess. My mess is my organization. You know, that's what works for me. And getting people to really understand that you can function better in that because you know where stuff is. I remember working with an attorney one time. You couldn't see his floor. He had stacks of files. I mean, he had file drawers, but he just had stacks of files of everything he was working on. And people would come in and go, "Oh my gosh!" And but he knew where everything was. You know, and to someone else, to 99% of the population, it was overwhelming. But his mess was his organization. And I think that that is an important factor of how has somebody always lived? How has someone organized their life? And be respectful of that as well. I want to make sure that, oh, go ahead, Kate, and then I want to get to Pauline or Pauline.
Yeah, it's more of an organized mess, if you know what I mean, because you can get kicked out of assisted living if you actually make a huge mess. You know, I've seen a lady that has been clipping newspapers, like 2 years of newspapers, and they're all over the place, and she just would not pick it up. She wants it that way. And it's everywhere, from dining table to couch. And this is 2 years, and her son had to take her out of there because that is a bit too much.
Well, and some things can become a fire hazard, with you.
Yeah, right.
Like that.
And about the I have one thing more to say. The camera, did we talk about the camera? Okay. My Aunt Helen, she wanted a camera out of nowhere. It's like nobody is doing anything. This is assisted living. So she wanted a camera like now. So I saw a flashlight. So I climbed and I put the flashlight up where the cabinet is at in the kitchen, and put some greeneries around it, And I said, see, what would they know? This is your camera. She looked at it, she said, that does look like a camera. I said, yeah. She was fine and she was happy. So it's how you handle things. Sometimes she wanted it there and then. So I didn't carry a camera in my handbag when I visited her. So, and for those who wants to be quiet, I think you can go for a walk or sit outside. And if you've got a hobby and you do it, and that's participating. If you don't want to do Legos, which is sometimes very insulting to some of the residents, because they can do more. I don't want to put Legos in a bucket. Take whatever craft you have and you in there, so you're participating. And like El Marie, she likes to be around people. So you can participate without even talking to them, and you're around them. And true, you can go for a walk.
Yeah. And Legos have taken on a whole new thing. So they've gotten quite complicated.
Yeah.
Paula, let's go to you next.
Yeah, I guess I want to put things in perspective a little bit. I am in the process of a move, but I want to put it in perspective a little. I grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio, from the time I was a young child till the time I was 62. I lived there. So it's pretty much a home, and all my memories are there and everything is there. So we moved out here into Arizona to live with my daughter as a new approach for caregiving. But what I'm finding is I'm really lost here. I don't know where anything is. I really don't. I'm really disoriented here, even after 4 years. And so I want to go back. I want to go. I have family. We have a lot of family there in Cincinnati, and I have a lot of memories. So that's why we are moving back to Cincinnati. Now, in terms of what we're looking at in terms of care down the road and that sort of thing, we're looking at, we have, like I said, a lot of family. I have four brother-in-laws and sister-in-laws, and I have a son that lives in Cincinnati. So I have a lot of people around me that will help me transition if something happens to my husband. And beyond that, I have my daughter is going to be selling the home here and moving to probably North Carolina, so she won't be terribly as far, as she is now. And she is getting a house that will have a spare bedroom so that if I need to move in, I can move in. So that's kind of our plan for care.
Oh, sorry, couldn't get unmuted there.
Uh,
So in terms of making the move, can you tell people why you decided to make the move out with family? Because I know sometimes if family wants you to come out and it sounds like it's going to work, but it doesn't always work. But maybe it had nothing to do with the family situation. Maybe it just had other impacts there. Are you comfortable sharing on that at all?
Well, I think we got to the point where we wanted more privacy. I mean, we're still pretty functional. I mean, my husband is very functional and so forth, and we wanted more privacy is one of the things I think. So we're going to enjoy that while we can, and have that. And then when that's not possible anymore, then we'll do something different.
That's great. I appreciate you mentioning that because those are things that sometimes it's hard to weigh out in the equation when you're making those decisions. Kind of with the extrovert, introvert type things as well. Those boundary pieces can be complicated. Kate, you had a comment, and then Creaky.
Yes, I have another thought. When I moved out of this house to a smaller place, I started thinking, about how long am I going to stay here? And I still want to advocate, but I can't walk for the Alzheimer's Association or things like that, but I can still come to support group, but sometimes I can't because of other health issues and doctor's appointment. And while I still can advocate, I thought, well, maybe I would move while I still can and have in services with the staff, the caregivers, and speak about dementia. Like Drew was saying, they need more education. And so I've got to study. And even if I don't remember everything, at least I can give something. I can still give something, and I want to be still useful. And for that, I think that I might consider assisted living. And I am an introvert. Don't believe it. I am such an introvert. This is the only place that I'm not an introvert. I want my space,
Great, thank you. And Creaky, you had a comment?
Back on talking about the decision on when to move in if you're going into assisted living. And I've toyed with that. I don't have a care partner. I don't have, my family and that kind of a thing. And part of me is saying, my OCD, my whatever is saying, well, you need to move in while you still have your thoughts together so you can introduce yourself and make sure things are set up and all of that. And then of course with all of that comes tons of planning and I'm like, oh no, I want to go to the beach. I want to go to the beach. I want to chill out. I want to, do my little meetings and stuff. Because again, my brain is slowing down and all of that's too much to figure out and none of it is in sequence. So why the heck bother? And my brain is I don't mean to be making light of this, but it's like I just don't remember how scary it can be. And so just for that moment, I let it go. And then I pick myself up and I start the next day. And, so that's the way I'm dealing with things. And it works for me for now.
Wonderful. Thank you. Anybody have any last minute comments? True?
Other things that I've done for preparation, I've been telling my husband for a year that he has to learn how to help me with my makeup because I shake so very badly. It's pretty impossible to put on makeup like this. And I put on makeup once a month for Lori La Bey. It's not like I do it every day. He can help me once a month, but he'd better get started because today was the last day I do doing my own makeup. It just, but so things like that, say I already have gotten from Tiba Snow some good strategies on how to have him help, he holds or I hold his hand while he does it so that my hand is up there, but it's his steadiness that is doing it, So I've got some of the techniques that I want to share with him of how to do it, but I've just got to get him to push the button and be there for me on it. And also on the matter of clothes, he's really good at a lot of things, but he has no sense of color. So I've got it so that I have a few exceptions to the rule, but mostly I can wear black turtlenecks. I've got my summer turtlenecks and my winter turtlenecks. My pants are all the same. So there's no putting things that, I've got different things to go over the black, but there's no possibility of clash. Because if I've got things in front of me that clash, my tension level goes up and up and my stress level goes up and nobody knows why. But it's because I've got clashing colors in front of me. And so that's something else that I've done is I've prepared my wardrobe so that somebody else isn't going to put clashing clothes on me.
Well, that's smart. That's a really good, really good tip on that. So thank you. Anybody else? Well, again, thank you guys so much. This has been a brilliant conversation. For those of you watching, please share this. This is why we do these. If you find this helpful, don't keep it a secret. Share it with others and be part of the collaboration and the communication to improve life with dementia. Thank you so much.